actually going to start off here with a circle. This is how big your sadness is going to be. So I'd say like the size of a grapefruit maybe, or like an orange, maybe a softball. Somewhere around that range would probably be pretty good. And you can see here I'm just starting off with really, really light circles. And I drew a couple. It's totally okay. I'm going to give myself some options to work with. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this circle here straight up and down the middle in half. And then I'm going to cut it almost in half, again horizontally. I'd say you want it to rest maybe just like a tiny bit lower than halfway. Now once we've got our little Disney Plus here, featuring first Inside Out, but not Inside Out 2, they made a lot of money, so maybe not for a while. But once you've got that Disney Plus, underneath our circle here, we're actually going to just cut a tiny portion of the bottom out here. So I'm going to add in a very stretched out little U-curve. You could honestly just make this like a straight line if you want. It doesn't really super matter much. We're just showing that that bottom of her chin is kind of tucked into the collar of her outfit here. And Sadness kind of wears this very like bunchy sweater. So what ready for sweater weather. I'm like a huge fan. Even though here sweater weather doesn't start until like February, so I got a long wait ahead of me. But for Sadness, she wears that year round. So I'm going to start off with this wide set of parentheses here. And then hers is actually super bunchy. She's got like a second layer here. So underneath that first layer, I'm going to add in another set of parentheses. And then I'm going to connect these here with a stretched out U-curve. And now she's going to look kind of like a snow globe or like a crystal ball. It's totally okay. That's kind of what we're going for, at least in this case here. And what I'm going to start to do here with my sweater is I'm going to go ahead and go over my lines and curves here, start to push harder on my pencil and make these lines darker and thicker. And this is what we like to call locking in our lines. So if you haven't heard that term before, that's really what it means. It just means making these lines nice and dark here. You don't have to make anything dark or lock them in until you like how it looks. Now I want to add a little bit more texture here on her sweater, so it's got a little bit more of that like cozy looking feel to it. So I'm going to add in more of these sets of parentheses here, basically across my sweater. You can add as much or as little as you want, or maybe you want to give her like a different pattern on her sweater. You can totally do that. It's your drawing, so your interpretation of Sadness here. It's up to you. I'm going to add maybe like 3 sets of parentheses here for myself. This one here on the right, I'm actually going to switch the way it's facing here, so it gives it a little bit more of that 3D look. But once you've got your texture here for your sweater, that's really everything we need for that bottom part of her sweater. Don't need to really add much after that. I'm going to go ahead and move up here on my orb, basically to add in more of her silhouette. So for Sadness, she's got that cool little bob here. So she's got a little deep side part. I'm going to start with the part here on the top right of my circle. I'm just adding in like almost a little antenna. And then we're going to make basically like this tall rainbow curve that goes over the top of her head shape here. And I'm going to bring this rainbow all the way down where I'm almost making like a slide shape. I'm going to bring that all the way down towards my horizontal guideline here on the left. I'll stop at about where my horizontal guideline is, and her hair gets kind of swoopy at the end. So I'd say below your horizontal guideline, kind of close to like where the collar of your sweater starts, I'm going to add in this little like sharp fin shape here. So something like along the lines of this, like a little thick blade of grass. And then once you've got that part here in place for her, we can start to add in a couple of extra details, like maybe off the side here, I'll add in one more little sharp fin shape or little kind of like bang shape here. And then you can start to lock this part in. So I'm going to go back in and just choose my favorite lines. If you feel like you didn't give her enough volume at the top of her head, you can always kind of adjust that rainbow. You don't have to always stick with the very first lines that you drew here. But Sadness, she actually has a specific kind of shape language to her. All the different emotions are based off of a specific kind of shape. So for like Joy, for instance, she's based off of like a shooting star. And that's kind of why her hair has that like pixie cut and almost comes to like a little point at the tip of it. And like anger is based off of a fire brick. Any guesses what shape sadness might be based off of?
A teardrop.
Yeah, a teardrop, exactly. Now what about disgust?
Broccoli.
Broccoli, yes. I think that's like the funniest shape to be based off of. It's something that you find disgusting. But I wonder if in Japan, well, they didn't go through all the effort to change her design, but in Japan, the Riley in those movies actually doesn't hate broccoli because it's kind of common for the younger children to eat broccoli in Japan. So they actually changed it to green bell peppers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Some people are like, I agree. You know, I understand. I'm not a huge fan, I'd say. I feel like the red and orange and yellow bell peppers, those hit. Definitely. Now, on the side here for the rest of her hairline, I'm just adding basically like this extra little slide shape here on the right side. And then I'm just going to go and bring that all the way to my horizontal guideline. And just connect it back to her head shape here. Now she still has these like face framing layers, so we're not quite done with her hair yet. We need to bring her back to the early 2000s emo phase here. So I'm going to tuck her bangs a little bit in front of her forehead here. So just by bringing this rainbow here, cutting into the shape of my circle a little bit from my side part. And then you want to bring this all the way down to where your horizontal guideline is. And basically we're going to make like a little W shape here. So I'm going to add in just 2 sets of bangs next to each other. And then you can lock in those shapes here once you like how that looks. She does have a little bit of extra bangs here on the right side. This one's going to be more just like one sharp fin shape. So you don't really have to go too far past your circle. Just going to add in another little triangle shape here, or blade of grass shape. And we'll lock that in. Once you've got her hair in place, you can lock in the rest of her head shape here. It's basically whatever else you see of your circle still at the bottom part. And then I'll say this probably like halfway or a little bit past halfway done here with sadness. So how are we doing out there so far?
Decent.
Okay, I was like, it was drastically different than the beginning. That's fair. I think we're just focused. I feel like we're not feeling sad. I think we're just focused. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay, that's totally fair. I get it. We did a lot. We just like powered through this whole silhouette here of sadness. That's very fair. Well, I'll tell you a little story about sadness because I thought it was kind of funny that everybody like gaslit me the other day about sadness. So the voice actor for sadness, anyone know who that is? Phyllis, yes. Okay, the other class, you know what they told me? I was like, it's somebody from the office. And they were like, Meredith. And then everybody collectively agreed to trick me. And then like for the rest of the day, I was like, yeah, it's Meredith. Totally, you guys are right, yes. And I mean, I can like picture her face, but I didn't remember her name was Phyllis. And also her real name is Phyllis, so that was kind of extra embarrassing. But Phyllis is the voice of sadness. Now, before I keep talking about Phyllis here, I think we can go ahead. We're going to add in some of her facial features here. So basically, she just has her nose, eyes, eyebrows, and her mouth and glasses. That sounded like a lot now that I said it out loud. But don't worry, it's not too much here. Underneath our horizontal guideline, I'm going to add in a little rainbow curve here for her nose. You can keep it kind of on the smaller side here. I feel like she doesn't have a really big nose. And then for her mouth, basically you can give her whatever kind of expression you want. You can make her even like happy, because right, other emotions can feel different kinds of feelings. They don't have to be stuck in their one feeling. I'm going to give her a sad face though. So I'm going to give her a little frown here on the side. But you know, you can give her a little smile, you can give her like a worried look. You can feel like anxiety and sadness just kind of like go together. So you're totally welcome to do that if you want. But on her horizontal guideline here, we want to add in those eyes for her. And her eyes are going to be these circles. I'd say they're kind of close together on your, towards your vertical guideline there. And they're a little bit on the smaller side because we're going to add in those glasses a little later on here. You can see she's looking very spooky. She saw that they lost some core memories there. Maybe she watched Inside Out too. She was like living through that panic attack too. Same. But we're gonna go ahead and start to block in these eye shapes here, once you like how those circles look, and then we'll wake her up here with some pupils. Of course, is the most important feature of our characters. It's really how we make emotional connections to them. And for sadness, we were talking about Phyllis. I think she provides a really great voice for sadness. It's like just on point for her. So much so that for Inside Out 2, Pixar actually asked Phyllis to come out of retirement to voice sadness. And she really like boss ladied them, I feel like. She was like, okay, I will, but you gotta send me the recording studio stuff to my house and I'm just gonna like work from home. I'm gonna work remote. Because, you know, I don't know where she lives, I forgot where it was, but she lives in, somebody looked up, it was super good. Wow, nice. Well, St. Louis, very far from the Pixar Studios, which is in Emeryville, NorCal. So instead of like having to fly out there, she power moved them and she said, send me all that stuff. And so she got to record her lines at home, and I'm pretty sure she got to make a lot of money. So good on her, I get it. They were probably like, we could not find a different voice for sadness. Not like that. Or disgust and fear, exactly. I don't know exactly the details for why they couldn't have the same voice actors. Money. Yeah, that's what you guys said. I just said, sure. Now, above my eyes here, we do want to add in her eyebrows because they're also very expressive. I'd say even if you give her a smile, you should still kind of give her these like little worried eyebrows. So I'm going to give her these little sideways U curves here. And then really all we need now are those glasses. You could give her maybe like fun-shaped glasses if you want. I'm not sure how sadness it'll be. Maybe you'll have like an Elton John sadness. That's up to you. You can get creative. I'm going to give her, of course, her classic glasses. So I'm just going to start to sketch out these circles all the way around my eyes here. They might overlap with your bangs a little bit. That's totally okay. I know we just worked really hard on them, but it's okay. And once you've got your glasses here kind of lightly sketched out, you want to go ahead and lock those in. We can add in a little nose bridge around her glasses too. I was just connecting her glasses. And then that's really the last step here for sadness. And anything else you want to add in is considered extra credit. You want to add in some other emotions in the background or their little like game console thing. And maybe you want to give her a little bit of like a pixely look. If you've noticed in Inside Out and Inside Out 2, the emotions have almost this kind of pixelated, like sparkly kind of texture. Originally, only Joy was going to have that texture because it cost Pixar a lot of money to use. But John Lasseter, who's kind of a big shot at Pixar, when he saw Inside Out and he saw that texture on Joy, he was like, I really need that on all the other emotions. So they took the L, but all the other emotions are now equal to Joy. So I think that was a good choice. And it really does give them kind of that like, almost, I don't want to say imaginary, but like this kind of unrealistic look to them that really works for the movie. Now, once you've added in that extra credit though, that last and most important step for our sketches, of course, is going to be your signature. So go ahead and find a nice spot somewhere on your paper. Make sure you add in that artist's signature here. And that's really the last step you need for sadness. So, with all that said, how did we all do in the end?
Decent.
Okay, we got some blues. Oh, you know what? On this side of her hair, I totally forgot. You can add in a little bit of extra texture. We'll just add in these two lines here. And that's it. Okay, I promise.